All right, if you're gearing up for the AWS Cloud Practitioner exam, you absolutely have to get a handle on how AWS delivers content around the globe. Today, we're going to break down the two key services that make it all happen, Amazon Route 53 and Amazon CloudFront. Let's dig into how they team up to make your application super fast and super reliable no matter where your users are. It kind of feels like magic, doesn't it? You type a domain name, hit enter, and a website just appears. But behind that simple click, there's this incredible chain of events. To really get what Route 53 and CloudFront do, we're going to follow the journey of your request, right from your browser all the way to the cloud and back again. So at the very heart of all of this is the domain name system, or DNS. The easiest way to think about it, it's the internet's phone book. We humans remember names, right? But computers, they need numbers, specifically IP addresses, to find anything. DNS is that critical translator that takes the name you type and turns it into the number the computer actually needs to find the server. Okay, so the very first step on this journey is finding the right address. And in the world of AWS, that is the job of Amazon Route 53. Route 53 is basically AWS's super reliable and scalable DNS service. Its main job? To act like a really smart traffic cop. When someone requests your domain, Route 53 points them to the right place. Maybe a web server, a load balancer, or, as we're about to see, a content delivery network. It's really the first signpost on our whole journey. Now, just because Route 53 found the right address doesn't automatically mean you get a fast connection. If your user is on the other side of the planet from your server, you're going to run into a problem called latency. And that's where our second service, CloudFront, steps in to save the day. Just imagine for a second your website is hosted on a server in Sydney, Australia. Now, if someone from Brazil wants to see it, their request has to literally travel halfway across the globe, and then all that data has to travel all the way back. That round trip takes time. That delay, that's latency. And for a global audience, it can make for a really slow, frustrating experience. This is the exact problem that Amazon CloudFront was built to solve. CloudFront is a content delivery network, or CDN. What it does is it makes copies of your website stuff, images, videos, the heavy files, and it stores them in a massive global network of data centers called edge locations. The key idea here is that it brings your content physically closer to your users. Okay, so this diagram here really lays it all out. Picture this. A user makes a request. Boom, they get sent to the closest CloudFront edge location. Now, if that spot already has a copy of the content, we call that a cache hit. It's delivered instantly, super fast. But if it's not there, a cache miss, no big deal. CloudFront just goes and grabs the file from your main server, what we call the origin. It then shoots that content over to the user, and here's the clever part. It saves a copy right there at the edge location for the next person who asks. So the benefits are huge, and these are absolutely key points for the exam. First, you get lower latency because the content is just traveling a shorter distance. Second, you take a lot of pressure off your main server because CloudFront is handling most of the requests. This also boosts reliability because the cached content might still be available even if your main server has a hiccup. And on top of all that, it's all running on the super fast, optimized AWS global network. All right, so we've got these two services, and they both help get users to your content. A really common point of confusion, especially on the exam, is figuring out which one does what. So let's clear that up right now and look at their distinct roles. This table breaks it down perfectly. Route 53's primary job is DNS resolution. It's the address book. Its focus is on routing accuracy. CloudFront, on the other hand, its whole purpose is content delivery. It's like an express courier, totally focused on cutting down latency. So to put it simply, Route 53 tells the user where to go, and then CloudFront figures out how to get the content to them as fast as humanly possible. And here's the bottom line. This is a great way to remember it. If you need to enforce really strict rules, like for licensing or legal compliance based on where a user is, that's a job for Route 53 and its routing policies. But if your number one goal is just raw speed and performance for a global audience, that's the classic use case for CloudFront. Okay, now let's actually connect the dots. When you first set up a CloudFront distribution, AWS gives you this long, kind of ugly computer-generated domain name. Obviously, that's not what you want your users to type in. You want to use your own custom domain, like www.example.com, and to do that, you use Route 53 to point your domain to your CloudFront distribution. You make this connection with a DNS record, and you've basically got two choices, a CNAME or an alias record. A CNAME is a standard DNS thing, but it's got one major drawback. You can't use it for your root domain, example.com, without the www. An alias record, though, is a special Route 53 feature. It acts like a CNAME, but has some huge advantages. It can be used for the root domain. And, get this, Route 53 doesn't charge you for alias queries that point to AWS resources like CloudFront.
Okay, listen up, because this is a huge exam tip. If you see a question about pointing a Route 53 domain to a CloudFront distribution, the answer is always an alias record. Just lock that in. It's the AWS-native way. It's the best practice. It's what they want you to know. Seriously, remember that one.
Now let's take this a step further and see how these services come together for something even more powerful. Building applications that are so resilient they can actually survive an entire AWS region going down.
So, from a high level, the setup looks like this. First, you deploy your application in two completely separate AWS regions, a primary and a secondary. Then you create a CloudFront distribution for each one. After that, you use Route 53 health checks to constantly monitor both of them. And finally, you set up a failover routing policy in Route 53. This tells it, hey, send all the traffic to the primary region, but if one of your health checks fails, automatically switch everything over to the secondary region. This kind of architecture is just a fantastic example of what makes the cloud so powerful. You get incredible high availability and a built-in disaster recovery plan. If something goes wrong, your users will experience little to no disruption. It's a really fundamental pattern for building mission-critical applications on AWS, and it's all made possible by combining the smart routing of Route 53 with the global reach of CloudFront.
So, to wrap it all up, let's go back to our analogy one last time. If Route 53 is the address book telling you which library to go to, and CloudFront is the local branch that has a copy of the book waiting for you right around the corner, then the failover setup we just talked about is the system that automatically updates the address book to point you to a backup library the second the first one has a problem. That, right there, is the power of Route 53 and CloudFront working together.